Let my honesty spill out through the pages.
You're listening to Escaping the Rat Race. I'm your host, Amy Leo, a singer-songwriter and mental health educator. And our show is all about questioning the status quo and pushing the boundaries into what's possible for human beings and not probable. So tune in and get ready to escape the rat race, not only the monotonous 9-to-5 work grind, but also that incessant internal mental chatter that prevents most of us humans from experiencing more joy, peace, clarity, and freedom. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. I don't know where you find yourself in the world today. I find myself, where am I? Today I'm in Amsterdam. I'm speaking with Simon Collins. He is UK based, and we are really excited about today's show. As you may have realized, the name of our podcast series and radio show is called Escaping the Rat Race. What generally comes to mind for people when they hear this is the relentless cycle financially that people get caught up in. You know, always on the grind, always stressed out whether they're trying to make money, then they spend money, then they feel bad about spending money, and then it's just really a perpetual cycle. So that's something I see a lot come across in my work. I don't know if you do too, Simon. So what we can do is let's just start off. Simon, I'd love to ask you, what does the rat race mean to you? And let's just start there. And then we'll talk about maybe ways to escape it, quote unquote.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on this, by the way, Amy. It's always good to talk to you. The rat race, to me, yeah, it's quite a current thing for me. I've only just escaped the perceived rat race myself last year in 2016. So this time last year, I was in the process of escaping the rat race, as I called it. And for me, I'm based in the south of England, about 45 minutes to an hour from London. And my work at that time was in sort of advertising and marketing based in London. And the rat race for me was commuting every day to London, Monday to Friday, being on a packed commuter train at 8 a.m., getting to work around, well, whenever it delivered me, between sort of 9:30. If the trains were behaving and the tubes were behaving, and then the same coming home, and for me it was just that relentless cycle of going to work and the enormous energy that took. I mean, it worked out that it was sort of, I was spending 3 hours a day commuting. You know, I could use that time quite sensibly, and and I wouldn't just play games on my mobile. I'd read and sort of get the most out of that time. But still, I was sort of out of my home for sort of 12 hours, and I think that would all be absolutely fine if I was doing what I passionately wanted to do. But it had become apparent in the last few years of me being in the rat race that the work I was doing was no longer my passion. So that's when it became difficult. That's when it became, it's almost a relentless pursuit of, the paycheck, money for the sake of it, rather than it ceased to be fun, in short.
Yeah, I hear that a lot from people that I speak to. I think I wasn't actually that surprised. I read the statistic that they did a study of United States workers, because of course I'm American. I don't know if listeners can pick up on our different accents, but they found that, only 3 out of 10 people actually felt fulfilled in their job. And so that leaves 70% of a very large population that have that sensation. And what you're describing here too, it's a travesty in some ways, because this is your life. Like what you were describing, Simon. I mean, this is hours and hours of your life that, life energy you can't get back. So I would love to hear more about your journey with this. So that's how it was for you before. How does it look now? How have you transitioned? What does escaping the rat race look like?
it's a great question, and this is where sort of money comes into it and the psychology behind money, because as it sort of worked out last year, I kind of had it in my mind that by the end of 2016, my goal was to have left my career, if you like, my career job, my profession that I was in, and transitioned into my new profession, which I've been sort of targeting to move into for many years now, and I've done lots of training, etc. And that's sort of like a coaching practice, setting up a coaching and training practice, and that was sort of set up. I was doing it part time, but the big shift was I was earning good money, and I got financial responsibilities, like everyone has, but to make that transition, it seemed to me to be all about money, really, and how I could make that transition without upsetting the lifestyle that I had sort of built for myself and my family, and the expectation around that. So in the end, I managed to get a couple of fairly good contracts in my new coaching business, and I just took the leap. I think it was about May last year. I just went for it, and that was probably sort of 6-7 months ahead of the schedule that I'd set myself. So I just went for it and leapt into my coaching practice. And I did actually at one point go back to my old profession. I was offered a lucrative short-term contract for a month. So last July, I think I went back up to London for 1 month, and it was awful. I absolutely hated it. It felt really incongruent, and that 1 month contract seemed to go on forever. And I was really pleased to sort of get back into my practice. And now I'm sort of, this year it's been, well, it's only early days in January, but yeah, I feel positive as ever, and so happy every day. And I've got so much more energy as well, because it's not wasted battling with commuter trains and things.
Certainly. What I appreciated about your story, I appreciated a few things. One thing in particular, though, was you did at least have the flexibility of mind to lean into an opportunity that presented itself for you to go back just for the 1 month. One thing I see people get, stuck in is that sometimes they think so rigidly about how they have to make money, that it has to be from this passion. It has to look this one way with how I'm manifesting and showing up in the world in a passionate way. So I appreciated that part of the story. And then, of course, the return to entrepreneurship, which is just great fun.
Yeah.
When you can see, at least for me and for clients that I work with, when you can see it more as a game and more of what money really is and what money really is not. So I wonder, do you have a take on that, of what is money at the core of it?
Yeah. Yeah, I love the way this conversation is now going. I mean, that was sort of my story. And what it was, just to sort of finish up my story, is I realized it was just that. It was just a story. I had these, you said I had the flexibility to go back and sort of, do a contract and in my old profession. And yeah, I've always got that flexibility to do that for sure. But I had created, and you probably heard me sort of almost reinforce the story that I was holding on to, that I had this lifestyle, that I had to earn this amount of money. And the reality is when I sort of really dissected that, it just wasn't true. I don't have to earn a certain sum of money. I was able to really downsize a lot of my life to sort of, so it would fit into my fledgling entrepreneurial life, which means my money is sort of, more up and down, and certainly a lot less than it was. But I can fit into that, and we have a lot more resources available to us than we actually think we have. So I just wanted to finish off on that my story, and then your other question, which I think is lovely. What is money really anyway? And my view on that is money is completely made up.
Yes, can we repeat that for the listeners, Simon? Go ahead.
Money is not real. It's completely made up. Let's draw an analogy, for example. Oxygen is something that we as human beings need to have in our life. We need to. We don't walk around in our lives thinking about oxygen. But it's if we didn't have oxygen for a minute or two, we'd be in big trouble, and it would be the one thing that we really, really need. But fortunately for us, at the moment, as human beings, we have an unlimited supply of oxygen. It's totally natural. It's part of nature. It's abundant, if you like. Now, although a lot of us actually treat money like oxygen, it's not. It's not natural. There's nothing natural about money. It's completely man-made. Money, put it another way, it's not natural. It's man-made. Money is actually a tool. You know, it's a very, very useful tool. It's really useful for going out to restaurants and buying dinner. It's really useful for spending on holidays and traveling. And as a business person, it's extremely useful. But that's all it is. It's a tool. And I know this, and do I embody this? No, because I've struggled with money. I've struggled with the concept of money. And I think we've all been conditioned in the Western world, in the industrialized Western world, that, you know, money is, you know, oxygen, and on the news and in politics and in the newspapers, they talk about the economy, and it almost trumps people. But actually, what money is it's a man-made concept, and all it really is a useful tool.
Yes, I couldn't say it better myself. I've really seen that money is a tool, and I would love to dive deeper into these cultural assumptions that we have and cultural beliefs. You know, the idea, like exactly what you illuminated, and it certainly was the same, like I said, in America, where there's this myth of more is better, bigger is better, that money equals your self-worth. But if you really get curious and look around in your life, you'll notice that every person in your life has a different relationship to money. And if you come across people in your life that have a lot of money, quote unquote, whatever that we determine that is, you know, you'll find that it doesn't matter in the sense of it has no correlation, no causation to someone's sense of well-being, to their ability to feel love, to feel joy, to be creative. An example comes up of a client I had that was in a six-figure business, and she realized when she started getting curious about how human experience actually happens, what's true, what's universal, she saw, well, hey, wait a minute. My bank account didn't fluctuate that much between yesterday and today. Yet yesterday, I was happy as a clam, and today I feel I don't have enough. I feel anxious. I feel paranoid that I'm going to lose it. So I would love if you could share maybe a little bit more on that, about the human nature, the human capacity to make meaning from anything, and that we're doing that all the time, but that it actually doesn't tell us anything objectively true.
Yeah. Well, that's so true. It really goes back to the well-being, or, well, a lot of people actually equate the number in their bank account, the amount of cash they've got in their bank account. They somehow try and draw a correlation between that and security, their actual security. We hear this a lot, the word financial security, etc. And your security, or your happiness, or you mentioned well-being, there's no correlation between those things, which are states that are built into our system. They're innate to us. Well-being is built in, it's innate in human beings. So is security and happiness and other things. Doesn't mean to say that we don't, it's innate, and we will fluctuate. Our experience ebbs and flows, but it is innate. And financial situation, that's something outside of us that cannot have any impact on our well-being, happiness, or security. The two things just, are totally separate.
Yeah, I have two examples that are really coming to mind when you're talking about this, kind of the two extremes. I actually know a gal that was homeless for several years in her 20s. And most people, when I say that, if you haven't actually experienced that, I find our imaginative capabilities will absolutely catastrophize that. And I could never live that way. And it was so fearful. But for her, it was where she needed to be in her life. For her, she found all the resources that she needed. She would go to restaurants at the end of the day and get meals and things like that. Then there was another gentleman that I met in Costa Rica when we were holding a retreat that he hasn't had a paycheck in 3 years. He's been traveling around to different places doing work swaps and teaching yoga and farming and things like that. So that's really fascinating to me on that end of the spectrum, that this exists, that these people had a sense of peace and well-being and security from the inside. Whereas one of the gentlemen that used to consult for my family's business, he is a millionaire. And when his stock account went under $500,000, he lost his hat. I mean, he wasn't sleeping. He was starting to cut the salaries of people making $30,000 a year that were working for him. And really this panic. So I just wanted to bring some real world examples in case the listeners could say, well, I've never had $1 million. So if I get that much and when I get there, I'll tell you if I'm not happy or not. But really, I encourage the listeners to investigate this in your life and start listening to the stories of other people who circumstantially have had, quote unquote, a lot of money or a little to no money. And for me, that brings up this interesting piece too, Simon, if we could talk about this, is, which I think is really related to the rat race and to it being a perpetual, endless cycle, is what is enough money? Most people, if you ask them that question, they don't know. They just know they don't have enough.
Yeah, it's interesting, and there's so many stories of celebrities who've got tons of the stuff, tons of money, but they're totally unhappy, or they're sort of they're doing drugs, or their mental health is not good. And if money made you happy, then all of the rich people you can think of would be happy, full stop, 100% of the time, or as much as possible. But that clearly isn't the case. It goes back to the fact that money just can't make you happy. I loved your stories. There's another one I'd like to add to that. I heard a story of a businessman who was in Delhi, and he was staying in a 5-star hotel, and he was on business, and he left the hotel in his chauffeur-driven car, and he was really stressed out, and he was worrying about his meeting, and he was worrying about all sorts of things, and he was on the phone, and he was in the back of the car, and he saw a family who were clearly living on the sidewalk of the road that he was traveling down, and they were having their breakfast on the side of the road where they lived, laughing and joking and having a great time. And to his credit, that something jarred him and stopped him, and he actually noticed them, and then had a sort of a bit of a light bulb moment, knowing that there he was, rich businessman, with all the so-called great life around him, yet he was the one who was stressed and unhappy, and this family who had nothing looked as happy as anything. So to his credit, he noticed that. So I just wanted to add that one because that was kind of fresh in my mind.
As the popular proverb goes, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. We cordially invite you to our next webinar, Escaping the Rat Race of Relationships, because we are going to be looking at how to achieve the latter, teaching the framework behind a lifetime of love and well-being. It's going to be a blast as we debunk 3 common relationship myths that may actually be sabotaging your love life. In this webinar, we will explore the crucial factors we often overlook in regards to love and relationships, the 3 common relationship ideas that are innocently holding you back from experiencing more love in your life, such as why communication is actually not the key to long-lasting, fulfilling relationships. Whether you are single, in a relationship, or going through a breakup, this webinar offers a logical, practical exploration of what's missing from the mainstream conversation about love and relationships. It's also your opportunity to ask questions and join this community in real time. To register or for more information, email Amy at ratrace@amyleo.com, ratrace@amyleo.com, ratrace@amyleo.com.
Remind me, where were we going just before I lost myself?
Just again, kind of putting a light on the made-up idea that more is always better. You know, what is enough? I remember I was really struck similarly to the gentleman in the story. See, this is the beauty of this conversation, Simon. I think it's what we both like having it, is that every human being is capable of having fresh thinking, an aha moment or a light bulb moment, they call it, right? You know, so that's built into every human being. So we're not saying we're anti-money. We're not saying money is bad. We're not making a moral judgment. I want to make that clear for listeners.
Yeah.
We're talking about what's underneath the human system. What allows someone to have we'll call it healthier relationship to money, just for lack of a better word, so that they can start to see creative solutions and think more clearly. So they can perhaps generate money in ways they would have never thought before if their bandwidth, if their mental capacity was so caught up in the idea of, I have to make this much money, I have to make it this way, this is not enough. How could, a lot of what you shared in your own story, Simon, with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've gone full circle here again. But one thing I did want to share before throwing the mic back over to you is I was on a train going down to New York City for a training. I'm definitely a recovered personal development junkie, I guess we should say. So I was going to a landmark forum. I know some listeners may know what that is. And there were these 2 younger college kids, and they were asking me questions. Well, what do you do? And I said, well, I've had this blessing, really. I've been in this situation where I've only had to work 3 months of the year, and the rest of the year I travel and I make music and I live my life. And they couldn't comprehend that, first of all, Simon. They looked at me like I had 5 heads. And they're like, well, how much money do you make? So then I told them. And it clearly, has been definitely enough for me to live and do lots of things. I've lived in 5 different countries, traveled the world, recorded an album. So I'm not, I'm not underneath the poverty line by any means. And what was interesting is then their judgment on that. And oh, that's not enough money. And I said, oh, well, how much is enough for you? What are you looking to make? They couldn't answer the question, Simon. And then finally, the one guy said, well, I guess I want to make as much as my dad makes, $5 million a year. Right? But it was clearly they're unconsciously going with the flow of society without really stopping to question for themselves and see, is this true, what society's telling me?
No, it's not. It's really interesting, actually, because I was listening to someone else's view on money, and they were talking about the sort of the history of it, and a couple of 100 years ago, the Industrial Revolution happened in England. That's where it started, and that was a shift from sort of an agricultural based sort of land to an industrialized land. And so you had factory owners and mill owners, and they needed a workforce, and they really struggled to get people to work for them, because what would happen is they would recruit a bunch of farm workers, I guess, agricultural workers, and these farm workers would come and work in the mill, and they'd do a few days' work, get enough money, and then they'd disappear again. They'd just be off because they've got their money, and they go off and have a jolly time, and they don't need it anymore. They don't need, so the mill owners. So the story goes from podcast I was listening to. The mill owners and the factory owners, what they did was they got the politicians and the clergymen to start including in their speeches and talks to the public the moral benefits of doing a day's work and earning a living that way. So they started, so the clergymen, the church, and the politicians started threading into their conversations and their talks to the public about, you're a better person if you have a job and you sort of do a full day's work and you work all year round, etc., etc. But it didn't really take much effect into that generation. But the funny thing is that the next generation, the kids of that generation, it worked. And they started being, the conditioning had worked, and they started buying into the belief that, doing a hard day's work consistently was morally a good thing to do. And of course, the education system was changed, so they started putting kids into school. So they got used to sort of having law that they had to go to school for 5 days a week or whatever it was. So it's kind of society conditioned over time. It's public to the people to go to work and do a week's work, go back the following week after week, month after month, year after year, and that sustained sort of industry. All of a sudden industry became sort of sustainable and grew and grew and grew. So I thought that was really interesting. It is totally we've been conditioned into this way of thinking.
Yeah, and what's great about what you said is it's a way of thinking. It isn't the way it has to be. There isn't, an almighty rule book or truth, absolute truth behind it. I find that's very fascinating. Thank you for sharing that. It reminds me of now how that has manifested in our new century, and how my generation has actually kind of gone full circle again, or at least are not staying in jobs for 30 or 40 years like my grandparents did. And I think for me personally, what I've seen, because I do work with a lot of senior clients, is that, I had been taught, from a young age, my dad does see money as security, and there's nothing wrong with it. That's just the meaning he's made. And he's kind of touted this getting a safe, secure job with benefits. But what I've seen time and time again is that isn't real security, because my older clients that I've worked with, I can't tell you how many times their pensions have been pulled, health benefits have been cut. So again, without that inner sense of stability and security, navigating that world is scary as hell. Yeah. I can imagine that, and not seeing your own resilience and your own wisdom to deal with a difficult circumstance, instead of defaulting to panic and stress. Today's show is sponsored by Kelly Munstrud Music and Technology. Kelly Munstrud's specialty is giving voice to the visions of heart-centered entrepreneurs and creatives through audio-related marketing. Kelly combines his 30 years in music with 20 years in business administration to help busy entrepreneurs and overwhelmed creatives take their business to the next level. Audio production and marketing services include custom-tailored music for your meditation or yoga-based service, or if you really want to build a brand your prospective customers won't soon forget, no matter what business you're in, he's also an expert in creating catchy, personalized signature songs, complete with your unique message and contact information, branded commercials and marketing campaigns for YouTube and other social media outlets, voiceovers, and podcast production. Kelly's capability to intuit what is missing from making your message more talked about, more viral, shall we say, is invaluable. Make a bigger impact in your business with one simple email. Contact Kelly today at kelly.munstrud@gmail.com. That's KELLY M as in Mary, O, N as in Nancy, S as in Sam, RUD@gmail.com. Kelly.munstrud@gmail.com. Kelly.munstrud@gmail.com. So as we go into the last part of today, I would love if we could talk about what is on offer for human beings, besides seeing money as either something to worship, something to hate, something to strive for. What is underneath that as far as the psychological freedom that's available for human beings, Simon? And how can people start looking more in that direction?
Yeah, well, I think I agree totally what you say. Things have changed. That old sort of the American dream, if you like, or the job for life, the golden generation sort of had, that's disappeared now. I personally love the entrepreneurial life. It really suits me, but I get that it can be quite scary for people, but it's totally doable. I mean, one thing I think we talked about sort of innate characteristics, if you like. What's innate for a human being? And we said earlier, things like, resiliences, definitely, well-being, happiness, these are sort of innate characteristics that we have as human beings. And another one I'd like to add to that is creativity. I think we are all innately creative. Another thing that's probably been worked out of us over the years, but if you speak to a bunch of 5 or 6 year olds, young kids, and ask them if they're all can draw, sing, dance, be creative, that they'll all tell you they are. They can do all of those things. If you ask a bunch of the same kids when they're sort of 14, 15, 16, there'll be a lot less positive answers to that same question. It kind of seems to get worked out of us, conditioned out of us. But we are all innately creative, which means we have the capacity to create whatever it is we want. And I think through sort of self-discovery, self-awareness, what's great now is there's a sort of an awakening to the great thing about the sort of new economy, the new world we live in, is that, and the internet and all of those resources that we have available to us now in the sort of information age, or the digital age that we're in, is that you can pretty much make a living doing whatever you want. All the tools are there to help us do that. So to get back innate creativity is something that I'd encourage us all to sort of see and discover. And then if we just find what it is that we love to do and work at that and really enjoy that, and it's kind of flipping it on the head. So the kids you met on the train who were saying they were going to sort of, they were kind of looking at, I'm going to sort of earn $7 million a year or whatever, or $7 million a year. They were kind of, they're putting the money first. I would say that we've got to sort of do what we love, follow our passion, and kind of create try and create a living out of that from that way, and then money will be sort of a byproduct to that. That's how I see it. And I know more and more people like, yourself and me and many others that I know now are sort of, they're looking at life and the world of work and the world of money creation and in that way now. Then they're not thinking, right, I must go and find a job earning 50K a year, and that's the first criteria, and then they go and find the job after that, and it's not sustainable. You end up hating it. But if you do it the other way round, you end up loving it. Because you love it, you do it more, you get better at it, and the money will just look after itself.
Yeah, and that's really the secret sauce, as I see underneath all that, is really living life with a clearer mind and with more psychological freedom, because then you can lean into what inspires you to do without all that noise in between. Everyone gets that noise. Simon does, I do. I'm speaking for your experience, but I'm assuming you're not a robot, I'm assuming you have moments of insecurity or doubts of yourself, like, oh, how could I possibly do that? But if you follow the inspiration and you realize the rest is just noise, that the mind is a continual stream of thought and opinion, just constantly flowing, and that it doesn't objectively mean anything other than what you think it means, that can be really helpful. And it also allows people to step into opportunities that they have right now. Instead of friends, for instance, trying to maybe get an interview with Tony Robbins or something, you lean into the wisdom that you have or the people around you, and you can create things, co-create movements that way, which I think is what we both ended up stumbling on, this inside-out revolution, essentially. And that was, to me, seems really organic, like what you had described.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I like what you said about having clarity of mind, having a clear mind. However much we understand the inside out nature of life and how we create our moment to moment experience from the inside out, however much we understand that, we're going to have moments when we don't, and our head fills up and we have a load of thought. For me now, when I start feeling insecure, or if I start feeling judgmental of others or of myself, that is now, or off in any way, so another way of saying that is when my well-being sort of starts going south, then that is a sign now to me that I've got too much thought. My head is full of stuff. It's like a thought storm, and what I need to do is just leave it alone and let it self-correct, wait for my head to clear, for clarity to re-emerge, and then I start seeing things properly again.
Yeah, and this is so practical, because the amount of results and productivity that is created in moments of clarity versus that sensation of stress and pressure, and I've got to do this now, and I want to be this at this place by this time, that I really invite listeners to contemplate that may be getting in the way. There may not actually be as much goodies there or as much practicality there as we may originally think.
Yeah, and it's really important. It's especially on this journey, because I can several times a day, and I'm sort of working in the unknown a lot. And it's not predictable what's going to happen, and it's quite easy to freak out sometimes. And sometimes, so in any given day, I might have moments where I'm feeling insecure and like, what the hell are you doing, Simon? But I kind of know enough about how our mind works not to sort of freak out and make life-changing decisions from that space. Do you know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, yes. Hallelujah. Say it again.
Yeah, and just wait. It's our our minds are designed to sort of ebb and flow. Our experience of life goes up and down and up and down, and it's a roller coaster. We don't have to get in the way of it. We don't have to we don't have to medicate ourselves or meditate to sort of get ourselves sort of back up again. That will happen naturally if we just get out of our own way. And sort of knowing how that's the case, that's the most important thing that I've ever discovered. It's the biggest leverage point for anybody's life.
It's a phenomenally different way to experience living, for sure. I'm so honored and tickled that you agreed to come on the show today, Simon. We have run out of time, but what I want to do is give you the opportunity to share how can people reach out to you if they want to have a more individualized conversation with you about this.
Just go to my website. It's sicollins.com. So that's SI, short for Simon, collins.com. And then on there, there's, you can reach me on there. And then there's I'm on all the social networks as well. But if you want to actually sort of find me and sort of connect with me, which would be fantastic, by the way, there'd be a contact form via my website.
Simplicity. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Simon, for coming on and talking a little bit about the rat race with work and finances, and then what's on offer for human beings when they can kind of start to see through that a little bit.
Pleasure. It's such fun talking about that subject and talking with you as ever, Amy.
Absolutely, Simon. Take care. We'll talk soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Well, I sincerely hope that you found something of interest in today's interview with Simon Collins. Money is a subject to which we all attach meaning to unknowingly, below the surface. We have a lot of thinking about it, and it isn't clear to us what that is, but definitely emotions show up around money because that's how the system works. If we have a thought, conscious or unconscious, we will experience that in our body. That's how we are built and designed to function. With that being said, there may have been times you either agreed or disagreed or got confused on a topic that we were talking about in regards to money and escaping the rat race. So if you do have any questions and you want to continue this conversation, you can certainly reach out to Simon, or you can send me an email at ratrace@amyleo.com. Again, that email address is ratrace@amyleo.com. What's beautiful about this conversation is that it's different in the sense of we're not talking about strategies and techniques. As you probably have noticed, we're talking about the foundations of psychological freedom first, because from that point of clarity, creating money and, again, having a healthy relationship with money is much more easeful and, in our experience, more practical than living in chronic stress, distress, and adrenaline. That cycle, that rat race cycle, depending on what relationship you do have with money currently.
As the popular proverb goes, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. We cordially invite you to our next webinar, Escaping the Rat Race of Relationships, because we are going to be looking at how to achieve the latter, teaching the framework behind a lifetime of love and well-being. It's going to be a blast as we debunk 3 common relationship myths that may actually be sabotaging your love life. In this webinar, we will explore the crucial factors we often overlook in regards to love and relationships, the 3 common relationship ideas that are innocently holding you back from experiencing more love in your life, such as why communication is actually not the key to long-lasting, fulfilling relationships. Whether you are single, in a relationship, or going through a breakup, this webinar offers a logical, practical exploration of what's missing from the mainstream conversation about love and relationships. It's also your opportunity to ask questions and join this community in real time. To register or for more information, email Amy at ratrace@amyleo.com, ratrace@amyleo.com, ratrace@amyleo.com.
So Kelly, cue the drum roll, please. It is time for today's Amy's Real Story. You can find these stories on Instagram at #Amy'sRealStories. Here is today's. It fits perfectly with what we've been talking about. Woman retires at age 33 to travel the world. I'm going to repeat that. Yes, this is a true story. Woman retires at age 33 to travel the world. The gal's name is Anita Dakey, who, while working as a corporate lawyer in Chicago, paid off her student loans and put her savings into investments. She ended up saving $700,000 and now travels the world living her dream lifestyle. She also runs a blog, thepowerofthrift.com, so feel free to reach out to her and see a little bit more about her story and how she's managed to create this for herself. Again, my name is Amy Leo. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to get these podcasts delivered right to your device, because we have a radio show and then it goes to a podcast, you can subscribe on iTunes by typing in the search engine Escaping the Rat Race with Amy Leo, or you can go to the website escapingtheratrace.org, where you can subscribe directly via email. Till next time, keep rockin'.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and for you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of a white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They learn much more than I'll ever know, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I think to myself, what a wonderful world.